Nigeria, a nation known for its vibrant culture and rich history, is no stranger to notorious criminals. But few have ever reached the heights of Chukwudumeme Onwuamadike, better known as Evans, one of the richest criminals in Nigeria's history. Born in the bustling town of Nui, Anambra State, Evans' humble beginnings belied the notorious legacy he was set to leave. As he grew, so did his criminal portfolio, ultimately earning him the infamous moniker, the Billionaire Kidnapper. This title wasn't just for show, it was a testament to the vast wealth he amassed through his criminal activities, a fortune built on fear and suffering. Evans's operations were not your everyday petty crimes. They were meticulously planned, high-stakes kidnappings, often raking in amounts of up to $1 million per operation. His targets were not random, they were carefully chosen, and his demands were always steep. This was a man who knew the value of a life and was not afraid to exploit it for his own gain. But it wasn't just the money that set Evans apart. It was his cunning, his intelligence, and his ability to remain a ghost in a country where he was one of the most wanted men. For 4 years, he evaded the grasp of the Nigeria police force, outsmarting them at every turn. His name surfaced on the most wanted lists in 3 states, Lagos State, Edo State, and Anambra State. Yet, he remained elusive, a phantom in the shadows, always one step ahead. Evans' story is not one of heroism or triumph. It's a tale of one man's descent into the dark world of crime, a story of a life lived in the shadows, and the immense wealth that can be amassed through fear and intimidation. It's a stark reminder of the dark underbelly that can exist even in the most vibrant of cultures. Evans's cunning and criminal prowess allowed him to evade arrest for 4 years, landing him on the most wanted lists in 3 states, Lagos State, Edo State, and Anambra State. Despite his uncanny ability to slip through the fingers of law enforcement, Evans's reign of terror would eventually come to an end. And it wasn't by sheer luck or happenstance. It was the relentless pursuit and strategic efforts of the Inspector General of Police Special Intelligence Response Team, better known as the IRT, that finally put a stop to his criminal escapades. The IRT, a specialized unit of the Nigeria police force, had been hot on Evans's trail for years. His name had been featured on the most wanted list in 3 states, Lagos, Edo, and Anambra. Yet with his crafty maneuvers and intelligent tactics, Evans had managed to evade arrest for 4 long years. He had become something akin to a phantom, a ghost that haunted the nightmares of his victims and the minds of the officers chasing him. But the IRT wasn't about to give up. They knew that to catch a man like Evans, they needed to think like him, to step into his shoes. And so they began to piece together Evans's modus operandi, studying his patterns, his methods, and his targets. They knew that he was no ordinary criminal. He was meticulous, calculated, and he left little room for error. The breakthrough came in the early days of June 2017. The IRT, using their gathered intelligence, managed to trace Evans to Lagos. It was there during the weekend of June 10th and 11th that they finally cornered the elusive kidnapper. The operation was swift, precise, and it left no room for Evans to escape. Finally, the man who had terrorized the nation, who had held countless lives in his ruthless grasp, was in the hands of the law. It was a victory for the IRT, a victory for justice, and a victory for all those who had suffered at the hands of this man. Evans, once the elusive billionaire kidnapper, found himself in the one place he had managed to avoid for years, in police custody. The reign of the billionaire kidnapper had come to an end, but this was just the beginning of a new chapter in his notorious story. With Evans under arrest, the stage was set for a trial that would captivate the nation. Chukwudumeme Onwuamadike, known to many as Evans, was not a man to be taken lightly. The list of charges against him was lengthy and chilling. Multiple murders, armed robberies, kidnappings, and unlawful possession of firearms and ammunition. It was as if the dark underbelly of crime had taken human form, and its name was Evans. One of the charges that stood out was the kidnapping of Uche Okarefor, a man living in the Festic area of Lagos State. On a seemingly ordinary day, the 21st of November 2017, Okarefor's life was thrown into turmoil. Evans and his gang descended on him, spiriting him away from his everyday life and into a world of fear and uncertainty. The demand for his release? A staggering $2 million. It wasn't just the audacity of the act that shocked the nation, but the sheer amount of the ransom. This wasn't just a crime, it was a statement, a chilling reminder of the power Evans once wielded. As the trial unfolded, the courtroom became a theater of sorts, with each day revealing more about the man behind the moniker of the billionaire kidnapper. The prosecution, led by the Director of Public Prosecutions, Ms. Titilayo Shitabe, argued that Evans had contravened sections 409 and 269 of the Criminal Laws of Lagos State, 2011. The defense, on the other hand, painted a picture of a man caught in circumstances beyond his control. They argued that Evans was a product of a society that left little room for the downtrodden to rise, but these claims fell on deaf ears, drowned out by the overwhelming evidence against him. As of March 2021, the trial was still ongoing, a testament to the complexity of the case. The courtroom was a battleground, where the law wrestled with a man who seemed to have slipped through its fingers for years. Every day brought with it fresh testimonies, new pieces of evidence, and a steady drumbeat towards what many believed was an inevitable conclusion. But the trial was more than just about Evans. It was a reflection of the society from which he had emerged. It was a stark reminder of the dark corners of humanity that often go unnoticed until they burst forth in ways too monstrous to ignore. And at the center of it all was Evans, the billionaire kidnapper, a man whose name had become synonymous with fear and dread, a man whose deeds had sent ripples through the nation, shattering the illusion of safety for many. As the evidence mounted, the billionaire kidnapper's fate hung in the balance. On February 25, 2022, the Lagos State High Court delivered a verdict that sent shockwaves through the country. This was the day the criminal reign of Chukwudumeme Onwamadika, or as he's more notoriously known, Evans the billionaire kidnapper, came to a definitive end. The court's verdict was unequivocal. Evans and two others were found guilty of kidnapping and conspiracy. The charges were grave and the evidence was overwhelming. The court found that Evans had been involved in numerous heinous activities, including multiple murders, armed robberies, kidnappings, and unlawful possession of firearms and ammunition. His crimes were vast and varied, painting a picture of a man who was ruthless in his pursuit of wealth and power. One particular case stood out among others: the unlawful capture of Uke Okarefor in the Festac area of Lagos State on November 21, 2017, and the subsequent demand for a $2 million ransom. This case was a stark reminder of the level of fear and terror that Evans and his gang were able to instill in their victims. The trial judge's comments about Evans were particularly striking. The judge noted that Evans showed no remorse in the dock and attempted to lie his way out of the crimes, despite the video evidence. This lack of remorse and the blatant attempts to evade responsibility for his actions only served to underscore the severity of his crimes. As the verdict was read out, the courtroom fell silent. The reality of the situation began to sink in. This was the end of the line for the billionaire kidnapper. His reign of terror was finally over. The punishment for these crimes was severe. As the judge handed down the sentence, there was a sense of finality in the air. The court was clear in its intention to make an example of Evans, to show the world that no one, no matter how powerful or wealthy, was above the law. Evans, the billionaire kidnapper, was sentenced to life imprisonment. With those words, justice was served. The man who had once held a nation in the grip of fear was now destined to spend the rest of his life behind bars. The billionaire kidnapper's reign had finally come to an end. Evans' life is a chilling testament to the extent of human greed and the depths to which it can lead. In the bustling heart of Nigeria, Chukwudumeme Onwamadike, or as he's infamously known, Evans, orchestrated a reign of terror that sent shockwaves throughout the nation. His crimes, ranging from multiple murders, armed robberies, to kidnappings, were not only a brutal display of his disregard for human life, but also a reflection of his insatiable greed. The impact of his actions rippled through his victims' lives, leaving a trail of trauma and devastation in its wake. His story, now etched in the annals of Nigeria's criminal history, has become a cautionary tale. The public reaction was a mix of fear, anger, and eventually relief, as this predator was finally brought to justice. The legacy of Evans is a stark one. Evans, the billionaire kidnapper, now serves as a stark reminder of the cost of crime and the relentless pursuit of justice.